All right, everybody, we're coming down to almost 11 minutes away from the start of this webinar. We hope everyone is doing well out there. I don't know if you saw, but we just started our Facebook Live feed. So if you're on here, make sure you go on Facebook and share this with anyone that might be interested in this technical app deployment talk with your friends at Media Temple. We're looking forward to having this discussion with you today, and then looking forward to what questions you bring to the table. Check us out and who we are at MediaTemple.net. Yeah, your friends over at Media Temple MT. We'll be with you in just a few minutes. So excited you guys stopped by for our webinar today. Want to throw a big kudos out to Brian. He's got the audio going for you guys as we wait for this webinar to get started. That's right. He's behind the scenes, our technical guru, bringing the jams to you. We're about 10 minutes away, and we are super pumped to share this information with you. Yes, it's technical, but your friends at Media Temple will make it fun. Simplicity as a service. Anyways, I'm Eddie. I'm a product manager over here at Media Temple, and we're going to be getting started in just a few minutes. So if you're watching on Facebook Live, make sure you pop on over, register for the webinar, and more than anything, we want to just be here to help you save money while getting into the cloud. All right, we'll be getting started in just a few minutes here. Thanks for stopping by. Hey everybody, we're coming down on 8 minutes. I'm not gonna lie, I have my mute button on over here and just jamming out, getting ready for this webinar. I'm super excited to be here with you guys on this beautiful Wednesday in a quarantine, but we are here together. We're looking up to the skies and we're looking at the bright sun coming down on us today. That's right, this is an app deployment best practices. It is a technical talk. If you're interested about getting your app deployments into the cloud, specifically on AWS, and furthermore with Media Temple, then you're in the right spot. You're going to be here with me, Eddie Howdigi. I'm the AWS product manager at Media Temple. And we'll also have Jeff Uberstein. He's our AWS engineering manager. Perfect place for you to come and ask your questions about getting your app deployment to the cloud. We'll be getting started here in just a few minutes. We're a little over 7 minutes to get started. Thanks for stopping by. My team behind the scenes, that is, they're pumping me full of information. They're just telling me, Eddie, you're such a hype man. You're getting people excited. People are asking questions in Facebook. Well, you know what? If you are asking questions in Facebook, we're going to get those over into our Q&A. We do have a webinar that's running. If you want to be part of the actual experience, just click on the link there on Facebook. It'll get you over to the registration page, and then you can be live in the webinar with us. But whatever questions you do ask on Facebook or any other streaming service that we're going out through, we are monitoring, we are taking a look, and we want to get to your questions. you are very important to us, and we want to help you achieve your goals. We back that up by showing up and doing things like this. We want to show you how we believe is best practices to get to the cloud. So we appreciate you showing up. We appreciate you coming to this because this is just a team of experts coming together and sharing what we believe might help you achieve a workflow in the cloud. So put your questions through whatever streaming service you're on right now, or if you're with us directly, and we are more than happy to get those answered today or any other day after today. We're here for you. You're a customer, and we're here to serve you. We want to support you, and we want to be a success with you. This webinar will be getting started in just a little over 5 minutes. We're very excited to have you with us, and we're looking forward to showing you what we built. One of the reasons that, and we'll cover this a little bit more, but first of all, thank you for joining. If you're watching right now, just even waiting for this webinar to start, that's support. So we appreciate you showing up early, and that's why we thought, I'll jump on the microphone and talk a little bit, maybe inspire some questions. One of the reasons that we approached app deployments on Amazon Web Services is we heard our customer base asking for a simpler way to test, to develop, and finally promote to production. You're dealing with such complex hosting, such complex technology sometimes that it can be difficult trying to implement that into a development workflow. What we've done is we've heard what it is that you were looking to do in the cloud around app deployment workflow, aka continuous development. So how can we break this down? How can we provide this simple as possible? Well, maybe that includes a video tutorial. Maybe that includes a knowledge base article. And furthermore, maybe that includes Jeff and I taking some time to walk you through it and then leave that there on the internet for your reference in the future. So that's the point of today. And that's what we're going to do in a little over 3 minutes. So if you have questions, if you have anything around putting your application into the cloud, it might not be the scope of today's webinar, but we want you to know that we're listening. We're here to help you, and we want to be those experts for you. So please put in your questions, and we appreciate you stopping by with us today. We're your friends over at Media Temple, and we're here to help, and we're going to get started in about 3 minutes. Thanks for stopping by. I see some attendees coming in. One of the things that always is on top of my mind as we are now work from home, one of the things I really enjoyed was getting out to those AWS seminars, right? And getting to know, like, what are the services that are coming out? What is happening? I just want to put this out there for the viewers that are here. At Media Temple, we had to continue to understand how we were going to stay at the head of the technology as it came out through Amazon. And usually we would find out about this and talk about this with Amazon at the seminars. Well, there's a ton of resources out there for you. There's the educational section where you can go and learn about how to become certified with AWS. There are email registrations. You can sign up for the latest services that are coming out. And later in the webinar, I challenge someone to ask Jeff Uberstein where he gets his news. And whoever asks him that question later in the webinar, a non-Media Temple or employee will get swag. I will send you swag personally, okay? So ask Jeff that question so he can share the answer with everyone later in our webinar. We're gonna get started here in just a little over a minute. So the next time you hear me will be us getting started for our app deployment on Amazon Web Services. Thanks so much for stopping by. Your friends at Media Temple really appreciate you being here with us. We'll be talking to you soon. Hello, everybody. I'm Eddie Howdige. It's nice to meet you. I am the face behind the voice that you are all listening to leading up to this webinar. Thank you so much. A sincere thank you for showing up today and spending the next 30 minutes with us as we try to explain and take you through an app deployment best practices and automating deployments to Amazon Web Services. Let's go ahead and get started by introducing, first of all, that voice that was just speaking at you. My name's Eddie Howdige. I'm an AWS product manager at Media Temple, and I've been at Media Temple for a little over 5 years. And I will be helping putting this workflow into your hands, hopefully assisting you in the future. Then, as well as Jeff Uberstein. Jeff Uberstein is my partner in crime. He is my AWS ninja. He is our AWS engineering manager. Jeff Uberstein, if you can introduce yourself, sir.
Hey, that's a hard intro to follow. Excuse me, but yeah, I'm Jeff. I am the AWS engineering manager at Media Temple. Been with Media Temple, wow, like almost 10 years now. It's been a really long, awesome journey, and I look forward to continuing in the future. I'm AWS certified with multiple certs, and I run the engineering team here at Media Temple. So we build out all the cool AWS features, functionality, and services that we provide to our customers.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. So let's jump right in. In this webinar, you will learn how an application deployment process can increase uptime by minimizing deployment-related errors and lower AWS cloud costs by removing the need for a network file system. Okay, now that we got that one slide out of this webinar deck out of the way, let's talk about how we got to that place where we wanted to solve for this. So what I just mentioned, those are the benefits of moving to a continuous deployment workflow. However, I think it's important that we look at how we arrived at that conclusion. We arrived at that conclusion because we were looking to solve a problem, an issue for our customers. Our customer success department, who works very closely with all of our AWS managed services customers, along with our 24/7 managed operations team, showed evidence that our customers needed a way to promote their changes within their different hosting environments. In the cloud, you have a dev environment, a staging environment, a production environment. Furthermore, if you're dealing with multiple engineers or app developers, you have a local environment. Furthermore, we wanted to understand the specific challenges with app deployments that our customers were facing. And we came up with 3 things to specific challenges, and we wanted to tackle that in this webinar. So the challenges with app deployment, based on what we were hearing from our customers, falls into one of these 3 sections. Number 1, tooling when pushing from staging to production. A system that connects all the pieces together, and we can dev and then promote to staging and then promote to production if needed, or local to staging, staging to production. There was no tooling there that connected all those pieces together for our customers. Secondly, control of your code and application dependencies. Well, in a managed services plan, we all know that there's a certain level of control that is lost, but it's lost for a good reason. It's lost because we have a 24/7 support team that can jump at any moment to help you with outages. Well, allowing you this solution, it brings back some of that control back to the developer. And we'll go through that, how we can do that later, as well as redundancy and rollback features. All too many times we've seen customers push out without some sort of continuous deployment workflow, and it breaks their website. It takes them down, and all of a sudden fires are going off, right? And by no means are these fires, unwarranted. Absolutely, we will jump to that with you. But wouldn't it be better if there was an error, we had an automatic rollback feature? And this solution provides that as well. So since the cloud is such a complex hosting product, and in all sincerity, we strive to provide simplicity as a service, we resolved that creating a walkthrough for customers that want to set up a continuous deployment workflow might be the best solution for us to receive more questions on how we can improve it. So at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Jeff Uberstein, who will go into the specific AWS services we use to assist our customers achieve a continuous deployment workflow. Jeff, over to you, sir.
Hey, how's everyone doing today? So, excuse me. again. Before we get into this, I just kind of wanted to define some of the quick technologies that we're using. So on the next slide, what we're going to see here is one of the core services that we're using, which is CodePipeline. And in the context of this webinar, CodePipeline is one of the core services that will monitor for changes as well as creating the deployments in CodeDeploy. Some of the big benefits here is it allows you to, there's a lot of functionality, but you can build, you can test, you can deploy. So CodePipeline can kick off multiple other services like CodeDeploy, which we'll be talking about today. It can also kick off services like CodeBuild, so you can run unit testing to make sure that all of your code works properly before the deployment. And CodePipeline can link into a variety of services. Today we'll be talking about GitHub, but it can also link into S3, AWS's code commit services, and a list of other services that is always updated and found on the AWS knowledge base articles. I also wanted to talk about code deploy a little bit. So CodePipeline is what monitors for changes and basically bundles up all of your content. Code deploy is what takes all that content and deploys it to the machines. So code deploy at a high level performs three distinct functionalities. It deploys the code to your server from the zip revisions that CodePipeline creates. It allows you to run scripts, which are called hooks, and inside of any of these hooks, you can run, shell scripts or Ansible playbooks or really anything you want that's an executable, as well as setting permissions and ownerships on your files. So when you're deploying, if you're deploying and everything needs to be owned by your website user, you can make sure that the correct permissions are there, that directories have 755 permissions, that files have 644 permissions. There's a lot of flexibility around that. So on the next slide, what we're going to look at here is just a very, very simplistic example of the appspec.yaml file. Inside the presentation we're going to be showing later, there's a little bit more verbose information about this file, and you can always find more information if you just do a Google search for appspec reference guide. Amazon has a really good article with all the different directives and parameters you can put in an appspec file. This is pretty much the minimum required. You always specify a version. Your OS will almost always be Linux. For files, this is the source of the files is within your Git repo where those files live, and the destination is where you want to put them on the server. As well as the hooks that I was kind of talking about earlier. Amazon provides some pretty native, well-documented shell scripts that perform very distinct functionality, like deregistering from the load balancer, stopping or starting services, re-registering for the load balancer, things of that nature. You can also, as you see on the left side, run the hooks as any user you want that's on the system. You could run them as root. You could run them as whatever user they need to be run as. You can specify timeouts. So if something takes too long, let's just say you build a shell script and for whatever reason there's some sort of race condition and you have this infinite loop, you can specify timeout of 5 minutes where hey, this script really should execute in 30 seconds, so let's set it to a minute, and if something goes past a minute there's probably something wrong, so let's just fail that out. We'll get a notification, we'll go fix whatever failed, and then we'll try this again. So on what we're going to be covering today in the demo is going to be setting up GitHub, downloading code deploy examples, determining what branch to use, setting up your GitHub personal access token, which is really important because none of this integration works without that personal access token, as well as adjusting the paths for your files and scripts and adding hooks for some of the Media Temple custom sizing validations and other Media Temple specific functionality that we wrote to make your life easier, to eliminate some of the problems that are common with code deploy and help you move forward in a way where those are things you don't have to worry about. So on the skipping forward to the one more slide, I just want to talk about the architecture just a little bit before we go into the demo. So essentially what our recommended approach is that you take your Git users, they push to GitHub. I want to make note that this doesn't have to be GitHub. We're talking about GitHub today, but there are multiple different ways you could do this. If you want to use Bitbucket or GitLab or any other Git service, there are maybe some slight variations to what this workflow looks like, but they are possible. But in this case, we're pushing to GitHub. Once any of your commits make it into the branch that we have CodePipeline set up to use, CodePipeline will essentially retrieve that code from GitHub, package it all up, and put it in an S3 bucket. Once that happens, CodePipeline creates a revision in CodeDeploy. And CodeDeploy will go retrieve that revision from S3 and essentially send that revision to each machine that code deploy agent is targeting. This can be an auto scaling group. It could be based on tags. And there's multiple different approaches here. You can do one at a time, which is our default action. So that way, when you're rolling out a revision, it happens one machine at a time. That machine is taken out, deployed, then the next machine happens, so on and so forth. You can do all at once. So if you just want to say, I want this revision to just be published simultaneously to all the machines, you can do that as well. And there's multiple other different ways you can customize this, either on the code deploy side or even with your auto scaling policies. So with that said, I think we should hop straight into that demo and let's see a little bit of this in action.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Mr. Jeffrey. Let's do that. I'm hoping the audience is feeling the same way. I'm going to switch over to our new share here and get this prepped up for you. Just a moment.
Hello, and welcome to this tutorial on setting up CodePipeline with GitHub plus Code Deploy. What you will learn in this tutorial is how to push code from your local machine to your dev, staging, or production environments. Take control of your application deployment workflow. Obtain redundancy and rollback features with this automated application deployment. Let's dive right in. In today's example, we will be working with the domain csm.mtcloud.net. We have created a new directory for this project, and we will move our AWS sample files into this directory. Let's get started by going to GitHub and creating a new repository. The repo name will be MT Demo App Workflow, and our description, we'll just put Media Temple App Deployment Workflow Demo. We'll make it private, and to avoid errors, do not initialize new repository with README or gitignore files. You can add these files after your project has been created and pushed to GitHub. Once your repository is created, you will be redirected to the repository dashboard. Since the repo is empty, GitHub will give you instructions on how to populate it, but we'll cover this in later steps. Let's now download the AWS Code Deploy sample files. Go to AWS Code Deploy GitHub. The link can be found in the knowledge base article called App Deployments on AWS using CodePipeline and GitHub at mediatemple.net/community. Click on AWS Code Deploy samples in the breadcrumbs at the top under the repository name. Now click the green clone or download button. Copy the URL under clone with HTTPS. Open your terminal. We will only use a subset of the repo. Therefore, we will create a separate folder locally for the cloned files. We will make a directory called sample files. Change the directory to sample files. Type git clone and then paste the URL you copied. Press enter and your local clone will be created. Now we will copy the files we need from the sample files directory to our local csm.mtcloud.net directory. Use the copy command to make a copy. Change the directory into the csm.mtcloud.net and verify files have been copied from the sample directory. Next, move the files into the following directory hierarchy. Create a folder named Scripts. All scripts identified with the .sh extension should be moved into the scripts folder. Create a new folder named Web. All web files should be moved into this web folder. In our example, we're working with the new WordPress install, so I want to move all my WordPress files into this web folder. The appsec.yaml file should stay at the root of the directory. appspec.yaml file should be adjusted with the path to your files and scripts. Update the source location to the web files folder location. Update the hooks location to the scripts folder. And finally, add a new validate service hook to run the custom Media Temple sizing validation. Check the content cat appspec.yaml Once the content is verified, we can change directories to the scripts folder. Create a file named validate_service.sh inside the scripts folder. That file should contain the following line of code. The code can be found in the knowledge base article called App Deployments on AWS using CodePipeline and GitHub at mediatemple.net/community. The script ensures your ASG size is properly set in certain cases where previous code deploys fail. Now let's change our directory back to the root of the domain. And let's get started on initializing the local directory as a Git repository. Type git init and press enter. Let's add the files in your new local repository. Git space add space dot. Now we want to commit the files that you've staged in your local repository. Type git commit -m. In quotations, write a message to identify what this commit is. Please keep in mind that my prompt will look different than yours because of custom settings. And all the web files have been added to your repository. Now let's go back into GitHub repositories quick setup page and click copy the remote repository URL on the right. Back in the terminal, let's add the URL for the remote repository where your local repository will be pushed. Git remote add origin and the repository URL, which you just copied from GitHub. This will set the new remote location for your repository. You can also verify the new remote URL by typing git remote-v. Now we want to push our changes from our local repository to GitHub. Git push -u origin master. That pushes the changes in your local repository up to the remote repository you specified as the origin. Go back to the GitHub repo, refresh the repository, and you will see the files and folders that were uploaded to the repository. Let's make another update to the appspec.yaml file. Under the File section, we would suggest using the permissions attribute to ensure your files and directories have the correct users and groups. Once you make the update, save your appspec.yaml file. We will now commit the appspec.yaml file and upload it to the repo. Git add appspec.yaml and enter. We will then commit that file, git commit -m, and give ourselves a message. Press enter. Now we'll push to our origin. Git push origin master. Now we want to go to GitHub and refresh the repository. You can review the file that was updated by either selecting the file and seeing the changes, or you can look at the commits and see the change. You'll notice the green sections identify the changes made. Now let's set up our staging branch. So go back to the terminal and let's take inventory. Git branch -a. That will let us know all the branches in the project, even ones that are not in our local workspace. The asterisk next to master is the full line of the output. It indicates that we are currently on that branch. The second line tells us that on our remote name origin, there is a single branch also called master. Let's create a staging branch. Git checkout -b staging and enter. We give the new branch a descriptive name to remind us what we intend to do while working on it. We can also use the git checkout command to toggle back and forth between our two branches. Let's now upload our new staging branch. Git push -u origin staging. Verify that our staging branch is in a GitHub repository under the staging branch. We now have our default branch, which is master, and we have our staging branch. Now we need to create a GitHub personal access token, which has full admin access to the repo you wish to deploy. Generally speaking, we suggest creating a new automated user rather than using a personal user. Once the token has been created, make sure to copy your new personal token. You won't be able to see it again, so copy it and keep it in a safe location. Once this is complete, you're ready to create your Media Temple support request. Please go to support.mediatemple.net and sign in. Submit a new request and CC any of your team members that are in our ticketing system. The subject should be CodePipeline and GitHub plus code deploy. And in the description, you can write a message like, I would like to connect GitHub with CodePipeline and code deploy. For the domain, add your domain. In my case, it is csm.mtcloud.net. I will give the repository name. I will mention that I have an access token, but I will not add it in the ticket. A support agent will follow up with you at a later time to obtain that personal access token. Once again, please do not include your personal access token in this ticket. We will then also provide a mapping of my branches to the different environments in the cloud. And if you have a development branch, you can also have that filtered into your development infrastructure. You will receive a message that your request was successfully submitted once you submit your ticket, and one of our managed operations support agents will respond to your request once it has been completed. Thank you for watching this Code Pipeline with GitHub plus Code Deploy tutorial. We hope this helps you implement a solution which gives you the ability to push code while keeping control over app deployments and automatically having a redundancy and rollback plan on failed deployments. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our 24/7 managed operations team at support.mediatemple.net or contact your customer success manager. Thank you for being a Media Temple customer and watching this tutorial.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for watching that and sharing that with us. I want to answer one of the questions that came through. First of all, our apologies if the text was difficult to read. I will say we exported this several times trying to make it clear. Now we know that we can improve on that. So we will be sending out the video to all of the members in an email, follow-up email. So if you weren't able to quite read the text, don't worry, you'll get a video and it's super, super clear, along with the knowledge base article where you can actually copy paste the code over. So we're trying to remove as much impact to you as possible. So you'll receive that as a follow-up. And with that being said, I just want to take a quick moment and say thank you to our team in the background who helped us put all of this together. It's a big team. Thank you to Jeff as well. And thank you to all of you for coming out and supporting us. And at this time, we want to just go through a summary of what it is that we learned today. So through this application deployment process, you can expect to push from staging to production with less challenges, more redundancy. We recommend using the code pipeline and GitHub plus code deploy setup. However, we are open to hearing how it is you would like to set that up and having a conversation with you. And we'll follow up with an email on a how-to guide on how you can roll this out. With that being said, we want to open it up to questions from you. We have myself here, product manager for AWS, and Jeff as well to ask any questions around AWS engineering. So I'll go ahead and look at the channels here real quick and see if we have anything coming in.
Yeah, and while Eddie's doing that, just a couple quick things to mention here. A lot of the things that we showed are our opinionated way of doing these things, right? So if you want to use a branch called production instead of master, you're absolutely welcome to do that. If you want to call your staging branch something else, you're welcome to do that. We just kind of need to know how we map those branches to what environment they should be deployed to, as well as maybe you don't want to use shell scripts. Maybe you write Python code. You can absolutely make Python code be what the code deploy executes. If you want to run Ansible playbooks, you can absolutely have those code deploy hooks run Ansible playbooks. We have a lot of customers that do that. And one of the bonus things that I just kind of wanted to quickly touch on here is if you're ever doing anything where you need to like securely store parameters and you don't want to put like your website configuration files in Git, which is a very common thing that people say, okay, that's cool. Like I have all my WordPress files in this Git repo, but like what do I do about my WordPress config file? Like I don't want to put that in GitHub. So there's obviously a few different options for that. The one that we would suggest is templating that file, maybe using something like Ansible or Jinja, and then you should be able to essentially take the all the secure parameters like your passwords, your salts, and all those things, and we can work with you to store those in services like Amazon's Parameter Store, which is a really great place to store secrets. And we also can provide you some examples around that as well. So there's a lot of options, there's a lot of flexibility, and there's basically a way to tweak what we showed you today to fit anyone's workflow.
That's right. Thank you, Jeff. And I am answering some questions here in chat that are coming through. I think more from some. I think more from some employees that had questions around this internally. So I'm answering those questions. And nothing else coming from Facebook at the time. But this is a recording, so I'll say this. Please feel free to always reach out to us and ask us questions around how you can move your application to the cloud. We're hoping that this wasn't just a live webinar, but it makes its way to other people over time where we can still assist them through the archived recording. So always send your questions in. If you'd like, you can even send, if you're not a customer and you're looking to reach out to us, you can go to MediaTemple.net and just start a chat. Don't log into your account, and you'll automatically be connected to somebody who will speak to you about the solutions we have to offer. Is there anything else you'd like to add there, Jeff, before I think we go ahead and call it?
I mean, I could talk forever, but I think we've pretty well covered this topic. And if anyone has questions, like you said, they can put in some questions through social media or through our chat, and we'll be happy to get back with them back to them with an answer.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much all for coming, and those of you who joined, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us live. Those of you who are watching this recording after the fact, thank you so much for taking the time to click that play button. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. I'm Eddie Howdigi. I'm on LinkedIn. This is Jeff Uberstein. He's on LinkedIn. You have questions you want to get directly to us, go ahead and reach out through that. And we really much appreciate you showing up and spending this time with us. I'll let Jeff give a little bit of an outro as well.
You always make me follow your excellent, well thought out intros and outros. So I have a hard time saying it better than you.
Should we just say bye, Jeff? Should we say
bye?
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody. Have a great day and have fun getting onto the cloud. Bye.